Hello guys, it's Fa here with another class guide, and today we're gonna talk about the current HP king in both Raids and Mythic Plus. You guessed it right, Restoration Druid. Restoration Druid is literally the top HP spec in both Raids and Mythic Plus right now. But let's put logs aside and let me tell you what it feels like playing a Restoration Druid. It feels like heaven. It's literally so versatile and satisfying to play. It lacks a bit of damage output, but the amount of utility and healing it provides is insane. I've been playing Resto Druid for like 3 years now, and believe me, it's worth playing it even for a short period of time. In this video, we're gonna talk about talents, covenants, legendaries, gear, and finally, rotation. So, let's start. For level 15 talents, let's start with abundance. For each rejuvenation you have active, regrowth's cost is reduced by 6%, and critical effect chance is increased by 6%. This talent is a really good option for raiding. It goes really well with the Vision of Unending Growth legendary, since you're gonna find yourself having those extra rejuvenations on random people thanks to this legendary. Nourish. Heals the friendly target for 194% of spell power. Receives triple bonus from Mastery Harmony. This talent is a terrible choice for both raiding and Mythic Plus, and it's not recommended to pick it over Abundance or Cenarion Ward. Cenarion Ward. Protects a friendly target for 30 seconds. Any damage taken will consume the ward, and heal the target for 316% of spell power, over 8 seconds. This talent is really good, and it provides a decent single target healing, and it shall be your way to go for Mythic Plus content. Basically the way it works is when you put it on a target, and the target takes damage, the Cenarion Ward buff will activate. It's gonna put an 8 seconds hot on that target, which will heal them. Always better to put it on the tank, along with the other single target hots. And by the way, this talent works really well with the Verdant Infusion legendary. Level 25 talents. It's self-preference, but I suggest picking Renewal if you are unsure about your personal survivability. But you will lose some ability if you do so be careful with this one. Level 30 talents. Balance Affinity. Grants you the Astral Influence passive ability, which increases the range of all your abilities by 5 yards. Additionally, you gain access to the balance spec abilities Moonkin Farm, Star Surge, Starfire, both Typhoon and Vortex. It's really recommended especially for Mythic Plus content, since it provides Typhoon and Vortex. Feral Affinity. This affinity will give you the Felon Swiftness passive ability, which increases your movement speed by 15%, and it will also give you some Feral spec abilities, which are Rake, Rip, Ferocious Bite, and Swipe. Your energy regeneration is also increased by 35%. Guardian Affinity. Guardian Affinity is known for its amazing defensive availability, since it will give you the Thick Hide passive ability, which reduces all your damage taken by 6%, and you will be able to use Frenzied Regeneration plus Iron 4 and Thrash. This affinity is recommended for Druids and Necrotic Leagues, to help out their tanks with Necrotic stacks, and it's also a good option for raid progression, since it will min-max your survivability. Level 35 talents. Mighty Bash is a stun, which can be used in all forms and lasts for 4 seconds. Mass Entanglement is a mass root and is recommended for some dungeons, but remember, any damage might break the root. Heart of the Wild is your way to go to all kind of content here, since it buffs your affinity spells by 30%, which means more damage. Level 40 talents. Soul of the Forest. Swift Mend increases your next rejuvenation, regrowth, healing by 200% and your next wild growth by 75%. This one is your way to go in Mythic Plus, and in Sun King's Salvation encounter in Castle Nathria. Cultivation. Causes rejuvenation to place a 6 seconds hot on targets with less than 60% HP, the moment rejuvenation heals them. It's a really crappy talent, and shouldn't be considered for any kind of content you're doing, since the other two talents are much more powerful than this one. Incarnation, Tree of Life, is your Here Comes the Big Guns ability but for healing. It increases your healing done by 15%, and increases your armor by 120%. This talent is your default option for raiding. Level 45 talents. Inner Peace reduces the cooldown of Tranquility by 60 seconds. It's a very strong talent for raiding, but recommend picking Spring Blossoms instead. Spring Blossoms places a 6 second hot on targets healed by your Fluorescence, aka your Mushroom. This talent is pretty much your way to go for both Mythic Plus and raiding. Overgrowth instantly applies Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, and Regrowth's heal over time effect on an ally, and it has a 60 seconds cooldown. Not recommended to pick it over the previous two talents. Level 50 talents. Photosynthesis. While your life bloom is on yourself, your periodic heals 20% faster. While your life bloom is on an ally, your periodic heals on them have a 4% chance to cause it to bloom. This talent is really good for Mythic Plus, and works really well with the double life bloom legendary. Germination allows you to apply 2 rejuvenations on the same target. When rejuvenation is already applied on a target, a second cast rejuvenation applies a second version of the hot. From this point on, as long as both hots are active on the target, rejuvenation will always refresh the hot with the shortest remaining duration. This talent is not worth picking over Photosynthesis or Flourish in both grades and Mythic Plus. Flourish is an active ability with a 90-second cooldown. It extends the duration of all your hots within 60 yards by 8 seconds and speeds up their tick rate by 100%. When it comes to raids, you should always take this talent because it's so good, especially in those long duration phases where the damage simply keeps coming and you want to keep your hots on people. And for Mythic Plus, I'd say this talent is actually better than Photosynthesis, especially when you are climbing your way to high keys. It's also a viable option if you want to get your Keystone Master, and you are also lacking some healing during the Pride. Now let's jump to Covenants. When you join the Night Fae Covenant, you will get Convoke the Spirits. Convoke the Spirits is a 2-minute cooldown. Call upon the Night Fae for an eruption of energy channeling, a rapid flurry of 12 Druid spells and abilities over 4 seconds. You will cast Wild Growth, Swift Mend, Moonfire, Wrath, Regrowth, Rejuvenation, Rake, and Thrash on appropriate nearby targets, favoring your current shapeshift form, of course. To be honest, this is the best Covenant for Restoration Druid right now, for both raids and Mythic Plus. It's simply so overpowered since it gives the best healing cooldown and is offering a huge damage opener when used with Heart of the Wild. You will also get the Soul Shape ability, which teleports you 15 yards forward. It's like a Mage Blink, but you get to transform into a cute Vulpin or whatever creature you want to pick later on. This ability is so good for mobility, and it can save you from awkward situations sometimes. Venthyr. Ravenous Frenzy. Ravenous Frenzy is a 3-minute cooldown. For 20 seconds, Druid spells you cast increases your damage and healing by 2%, and haste by 1%, and it stacks. If you spend 2 seconds AFKing without doing anything, the Frenzy overcomes you, consuming 1% of your health per stack, stunning you for 1 second, and ending. This talent is a solid option if you don't want to go Night Fae for some reason, and that reason might be because your Mythic Plus team doesn't have a Venthyr player, and you are the only one who's capable of going Venthyr because it won't ruin your general gameplay, and it will benefit your party more. You will also get Door of Shadows upon joining the Venthyr Covenant, which is a similar ability to Soul Shape, but it's castable and it's usable once every 1 minute. But think about it. This ability can actually disorient enemies and interrupt casts, which is a good option at some point. Necrolord. Adaptive Swarm is a 25-second cooldown. Command a swarm that heals 1364 or deals 1299 shadow damage over 12 seconds to a target, and it increases the effectiveness of your periodic effects on them by 20%. Upon expiration, jumps to a target in 25 yards, alternating between friend and a foe, up to 3 times. This one is your way to go option for PvP, but since this is not a PvP guide, I'm not gonna talk much about this. But it's actually not that bad for Mythic Plus, since it provides a strong single target healing. Fleshcraft, really good and an amazing defensive cooldown, and after the recent buffs, Fleshcraft became so OP to the point people actually switched to Necrolord just because of this ability. Kyrian. Kindred Spirits forms a bond with an ally. Every 1 minute, you may empower the bond for 10 seconds, granting you an effect based on your partner's role, and granting them an effect based on your role. Focus on your bonded partner application 30% of all healing you deal into them. I find this covenant really good, but it's not recommended to pick it over Night Fae or Venthyr. As for conduits and soulbinds, I'll just cover Night Fae here, since I haven't really played Venthyr or any other covenant except Night Fae for a decent time, to actually understand which soulbinds and conduits are best in slot. Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver is the second soulbind available to members of the Night Fae. You must continue the Night Fae Covenant questline in Ardenweald to unlock her. Dreamweaver shall be your way to go to both raids and Mythic Plus. For conduits, I'm using these conduits right now. You can always use other conduits if you feel like trying out new things and stuff, but these conduits right here help me a lot, especially in Mythic Plus. Now let's talk about Legendaries. First, I'm gonna cover Mythic Plus Legendaries, so let's start. Here, you will always want to run the Dark Titans lesson if you are playing with the Photosynthesis talent, because of the double life bloom availability. But if you are running with Flourish instead of Photosynthesis, I recommend you to try the Circle of Life and Death legendary, which causes all of your damage over time debuff effects to trigger 25% faster, and your healing over time buff effects to trigger 15% faster. This legendary is basically making all your HOTS and dots tick much faster, which will allow them to do a big amount of damage and healing in a short period of time. Now if you are interested in doing a really good single target healing, I advise you to pick the Verdant Infusion legendary. After equipping this legendary, your Swiftment no longer consumes a heal over time effect, and extends the duration of your heal over time effects on the target by 10 seconds. You can always big brain and play around this legendary. By that, I mean you can extend anything you want, even Scenario and Ward, which leads to a higher single target healing on your tank or any other member of your party. For raid legendaries, there's not really much to say here, so I recommend going with the Vision of Unending Growth legendary. Rejuvenation healing has a 2.5% chance to create a new rejuvenation on a nearby target. It works really well with the Abundance talent, so it's your solid option for raiding. You can always try out Memory of the Mother Tree, which will give your wild growth a 40% chance to cause your next rejuvenation or regrowth to apply to 3 additional allies within 20 yards of the target. Now for the gear, you should always aim for Intellect first, aka higher item level, and then Haste and Mastery for raids. And for Mythic Plus, it's Intellect, Haste, or Mastery, and then Versatility. You will notice if you are lacking Mastery or Haste in Mythic Plus, so make sure to get what you need. Just to be clear, Intellect gives you spell power, and spell power makes your heal stronger. Haste reduces the cast time of your spells, directly increases the healing of your HOTS, and reduces the global cooldown. Mastery buffs your Mastery Harmony, which increases the healing you do to targets affected by your HOTS by X amount according to your Mastery, for each active HOTS. Now let's talk about rotation. I'm gonna take this chance to say that healers don't really have an exact rotation to follow, because most of the time it's situational, but I'm gonna list the basics of your healing. Always keep Efflorescence under a group of players. Keep your Life Bloom on the tank, and sometimes it can be used on another player to keep him alive if he's taken heavy fixated damage. Use your Wild Growth when the damage hits. Always cheese your clear casting procs, aka your free regrowth casts. Always ramp up with Rejuvenation before the damage hits. Make sure to use your Tranquility during a strong wave of wide raid damage unless you are assigned by your raid leader to use it at some certain point of the fight. Only use Regrowth in emergencies, because it consumes a lot of mana if you don't have few rejuvenations on multiple targets, so you can benefit from the Abundance talent. If there is nothing for you to heal, just start doing damage, and keep Sunfire and Moonfire on your enemy target. If you are playing with Kitty Affinity, it's gonna be a bit hard for you to adapt to the fights, especially as a melee, but try and keep your bleeds as much as you can, because even that small amount of damage that you dealt can help kill the boss when every bit of damage is needed. Now for dungeon healing, it's important for you to keep your rejuvenations on your party members, and your Efflorescence down if you are stacked, especially in Pride situations, so you can chill and help with DPS. During heavy damage, just always rely on your Covenant ability, and your Flourish if talented. Tranquility is also a strong cooldown, and is preferably used on Prides, since it has a long cast time, but remember to always track your party cooldowns, so you know you are going to prioritize first, and you can use your Iron Bark as strong as utility option as well to save that one single guy who's in danger. Now for the tips, I'm gonna say to you guys what I learned so far after playing Arrestor Druid for pretty much 3 years now. First, always keep track of your HOTS. Since Druid is a HOT reliant class, you should always make sure that your Efflorescence is down on stacked situations, and your Life Bloom is on tank, or even on a DPS who's taking damage, so you can get those juicy clear casting procs, and they won't go to waste. And most importantly, always use your Snare and Ward on cooldown since it provides a decent single target healing. Second, try and maintain both of your dots and bleeds on the target, so you can contribute with damage and not only healing. Even that slightest amount of damage can lead your team to victory, and believe me when I say it. Well again guys, thanks for visiting my YouTube channel and watching this video. I hope you found what you were looking for here. Also please make sure to subscribe and turn the notification bell on, because I'm uploading videos every week, so you guys can benefit from them. See ya, and remember to always go Pictic.